All right, we're going to call this Economic Development Authority meeting to order. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Mr. Moore.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We'll do roll call. Mr. Hines.
Present.
Mr. Kovacic.
Present.
Mr. Mitchell. Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Present.
Mrs. Scott.
Present.
Mrs. Smith. Mr. Smith. You do have a quorum.
Right. First order of business, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the joint meeting with council that you received last week.
Chairman Scott, I'm making a motion to approve the November 18th joint meeting with council minutes as presented.
Second.
Been properly moved in second. Is there any discussion, any questions, any corrections? Hearing none, I will ask the roll call for a vote.
All right. Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Mr. Kovacic.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. And now I will entertain a motion to review the November 19th, approve the November 19th minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be
Already.
abstaining from this vote as I was not here for the 19th meeting.
Move for acceptance.
Second.
You don't have to, but you can.
Okay.
We're going to do it again.
Huh.
Because we don't have a quorum and one member is abstaining.
Well, I think you're okay because you still have majority quorum.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, any questions or corrections? If not, roll call.
All right. So, Mr. Hines.
Abstain.
Mr. Kovacic.
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith.
Yes.
And Mrs. Scott.
Yes.
So motion carries.
Financials. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So you came back anyway, huh?
I came back to the course at this point.
If I could, Chair, this morning, because of the items that we have on the agenda and to keep the agenda moving smoothly, we'd like for you all to have reviewed the financials. If you have a question, we are here to answer. We're not looking for a report this morning. If there's a question, we can move forward. If not, then we would advise to send those to audit as you would normally do.
Yeah, not much activity this month.
I reviewed them. They look pretty much on track as they always do. It's only what was expected, no surprises. Mr. Hines normally reviews them thoroughly. Our treasurer reviews them thoroughly. Are there any issues or questions?
No issues or questions.
Anything?
No.
Mr. Hines?
Mr. Chairman, it's not even about the financials, but it's an item that was on the financials regarding the church that was just recently, and we awarded a facade improvement grant. Have they submitted their paperwork yet, or do we know if they've made any such claims as of yet?
They have not.
Okay.
They have not. We are waiting to have a conversation with them about that, certainly so we can clear up that matter and move those monies accordingly. But they have not as of yet.
I think that was the only one that crossed fiscal years last time, so we want to probably keep that on our front burners.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions or issues? All of these numbers are public, so if anybody else needs them afterwards, we can always get them. If not, we'll just submit this report for audit, as we always do. Thank you, Ms. Phillips, for preparing this and getting this to us. Now, there is any old business?
No.
Okay. Mr. Moore, 2020 Joint EDA PPIC retreat?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. We have discussed at the last joint EDA and PPIC meeting, we talked about this coming year in 2020, expanding the retreat so that it includes your colleagues from PPIC. This morning, we'd like to really nail down a date, if at all possible, for this event. It's normally on a Friday for the EDA. And what we were looking at is the month of March. More specifically, we were looking at Friday, March the 20th. That would be the Friday in between the normal EDA meeting, which would have been March the 17th, and the PPIC meeting, which would be March the 24th. That would allow us to forego those meetings, have a joint meeting, and have everything done in that one day. Keep in mind it is a lengthy day, starting at about 8, ending at about 3. But we normally get a lot done and have some great discussion.
Any consensus on that issue?
No comment.
I won't be here, so,
That's fine.
Yeah,
it's okay?
that's plenty of time to plan around.
That's fine. Yeah.
All right, okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll go for March the 20th, and we'll discuss it as well with PPIC, and make sure that is set for them as well.
Okay. Nominating committee report, Ms. Saunders Smith.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, the nominated committee submits the following nomination for Chair of the Economic Development Authority for the City of Portsmouth, Ray Smith Sr., for Vice Chair, Chairman Malcolm Mitchell. Respectfully submitted, Teresa Saunders Smith.
Normally that comes with a second from those nominating committees. I'm not, is that your understanding, sir?
Well, I
Or
think,
does it need to be seconded?
I don't think it needs to be seconded. We don't have a schedule for a vote, but we're talking to Robert, maybe you should go ahead and vote and make it effective January 1st.
Okay. What I would ask now, you've heard the nominating committee's report. Are there any nominations from the floor?
Mr. Chairman, it's just a quick point of order. Do we need to vote to amend our agenda to add this as a voting item?
Well,
To be on the safe side, probably, so.
why not? Why not?
So I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add that.
Mr. Chairman, with that said, I'd like to vote to amend the agenda to add the nominating committee report and vote for the new chair and vice chairman effective January 1, 2020.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
No.
I'm sorry, roll call.
Mr.
I think
Hines,
I'm in my
Yes.
regular
Mr.
parliamentary.
Kovacic,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
All right, motion carries, so that agenda item has been amended.
Now we've added the agenda item.
Yep.
We've had the report. Now open it to the floor if there are any other nominations for chair or vice chair. But I'll start with chair first. Any nominations for chair? Any nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to close the nominations for vice chair and vice chair.
I move that we go ahead and close the nominations for chair and vice chair and to accept the recommendations of the nominating committee for Mr. Ray Smith to be chairman and for Mr. Malcolm Mitchell to be vice chairman of the EDA.
Second.
Probably moving second. Roll call, Mr. Moore.
Mr. Hines, Mr. Kovacic,
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you, Ms. Saunders Smith and Mr. Kovacic, for your work on the nominating committee. Next, our 2020 Budget Ad Hoc Committee report.
So this item is for you, Chair, to select, as one of your final duties, select a ad hoc committee for the budget, 2020 budget. I believe last year it was Mr. Kovacic and Mr. 2020, I'm sorry, 2021 budget, FY 2021.
So this is FY
It's
2021.
2021. We apologize for the mistake there.
Okay.
But last year was Mr. Kovacic and Mr. Hines, if I'm not mistaken. So certainly,
In the next 4 years.
certainly it will be your choice and your choosing.
I would ask Mr. Kovacic to chair that committee again, if you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
And since he's absent, we'll put Mr. Mitchell on there as, to assist you. That's what he gets for not being here. He's going to get duties. We'll ask Mr. Mitchell to serve it with you as well. Okay? Mr. Donahue, LIP update.
Yes, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and EDA Commissioners. We thought it would be appropriate to share with you this morning a update on the local incentive program, being that we're halfway through the fiscal year, which started July 1, of course. With the program, we've had some significant developments and just kind of wanted to brief you on where we are and where we plan to be going forward. For some historical context, we thought we would share with you the last 5 years performance under the program. So you'll see the figures for 2015 through 2019. We've had some considerable investments occurring over that 5-year span, and it's noteworthy that last year, the first year that the program was citywide, we did over $260,000 in investment for our local business community. And of course, this is a matching program, so consider that that number essentially would need to be double what it was in terms of the actual investment occurring in order of eligibility for the program. So it's really double that is what we experienced just last year in 2019. So FY20 year to date, again, the board in its wisdom allocated another $300,000 for the year. We have to date awarded $174,000 in funding to assist our business community with improvements, and we do currently have over $125,000 still left in the program for the next 6 months. We do have applications currently under review, so that amount will be utilized in short time. We have here a listing of the 15 projects that we have assisted so far year to date. They are, for the most part, all small businesses here in the city. And you will note, based on address, that it is a fairly good representation of all of our business communities throughout the city. We have a number of new companies that this reflects, as well as some expansions of existing businesses as well. These are some photos of some of the projects in their various stages. We will, at the year end, come back with a full report to give you kind of a before and after comparison for these properties in total once the year closes out. But starting in the upper left-hand corner and working clockwise, you have our project at PMA Solutions, which is the location for IncuHub. It is a co-working hub zone based business, and that is in the Port Center community. We've assisted PMA with facade improvement grant and security upgrades to the property. You'll note the new signage out front, which from a visibility standpoint is quite helpful for them. To the right of that is LEK Corporation at 301 High Street. That is the soon-to-open location for Bangkok Garden Noodle House. They're doing a complete interior renovation and exterior facade renovation, so we're helping them with both the IBOG and FIG program to the tune of about $50,000 in matching funds there. We expect that they'll open in early 2020. To the right of that is Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture on High Street West in the Churchland area. That is a chiropractic facility that has relocated to Portsmouth within the last year, and we've assisted them with a facade improvement grant outside. We have in the bottom right-hand corner Tally and Twine in the Airline Business Park community. Tally and Twine is a wristwatch manufacturer. They have a new assembly facility and sales room there in that business park, and they're growing very quickly. So we're very pleased that they have a new physical location in Portsmouth. It was formerly a home-based business that has grown and expanded into a physical footprint in our industrial community here in Portsmouth.
What did you say they assemble watches?
Yes.
Yeah, so they assemble custom men's and women's wristwatches. It is an online-based business, but they do have a showroom and an assembly facility warehouse as well in the Airline Business Park.
And a quick story, Tally and Twine is named after the streets within Westbury, because that is where the home-based business, he was a first-time home buyer, acquired his home, built the business there, and it has grown to a point to where he went from buying a home to now buying a condo in this office park. So very good story of entrepreneurism and really the American dream, if you will, and you all were catalyst in making sure that he can not only acquire the space, but then build it out effectively.
And he was one of the guys that we honored in
Yes.
EDA, right? In the
Yes.
chamber, in the city hall.
Yeah.
chamber.
Randy Williams, a really great young
Great guy.
man. He's got a great story and really just a positive individual, one of our local entrepreneurs, really a success story.
Good.
And the final three are of Port Rover. They have just recently opened in the Airline Victory West Shopping Center. Port Rover is a dog boarding, daycare, and grooming facility. They do overnight boarding. Mr. Smith has been, of our office, has been working closely with them to help get them set up and operational. They took a large vacant location in that shopping center. It was really a void in the center, and they have completely renovated it. Mr. Smith was there for the ribbon cutting, I want to say, last Saturday, and they're already having dogs boarded there, so it's a busy, somewhat noisy place when you go in with all the dogs and activity there, but they did a really great job renovating that space there.
Very good.
Are there any questions?
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I mean, and I think we need to just thank our staff. When you think about it, that was $174,000 that we invested, but that means our partners invested at least $174,000 or more to their own money as well. So that's the type of incentives that we're providing and making sure that we attract and retain business here in Portsmouth. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Hopefully this program will grow. Hopefully as our revenues grow in the city of Portsmouth, and we'll be able to do more to attract business. At this point, Mr. Kavachi, do you have the, we're going to have to go into closed session.
Move to go into closed session into a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711A3 for the purpose of discussing acquisition or disposition of publicly held real property interest where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding properties owned by the PRHA, properties owned by GPDC, 0 Harbor Center Court, 176 Lincoln Street, 602 5th Street, 700 Crawford Street, and 0 London Boulevard.
Sir.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call, Mr. Moore.
What's the second?
Second was Mr. Smith, racist.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Mr. Kavachi?
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
We are in closed session.
I hereby move that each board member is certified that to the best of his or her knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
Second.
Probably on second. Roll call.
Mr. Hines?
Yes.
Mr. Kavachi?
Yes.
Mrs. Saunders Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Look at this, sir. Excited. Mrs. Smith, yes. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Yes, all right, there we go. We're in open session. We're in open session.
We're in open session. Anything else for the good of the body before we? Yes.
Yes. I would like to take a moment on behalf of all the city employees in the city of Portsmouth and as city manager to thank you. Although you served a short time, you made a significant impact. We're so proud of you going to Richmond to represent us, and we wish you nothing but much success.
Thank you.
And I know you will be back and forth when the session is over.
I
But
will.
please stay involved with us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you
Certainly.
very much.
Go ahead.
Did you talk about Mr. Ratcliffe?
I did not talk about Mr. Ratcliffe.
Just for those of you who knew Kathy Revel, who's our past chairman, her husband David died on Sunday, kind of unexpectedly, although he'd been ill for
Sometime.
a year or so. And his funeral is Friday at 11 at the Presbyterian Church on Court Street.
And unfortunately, that's the second, kind of close to this body. Certainly, Ms. Tracy Link passed several weeks ago. So, but to echo what Dr. Patton said, I'll just say ditto because she said it so eloquently.
No, I like ditto.
I
No, I like short hair.
I do want to say congratulations to the new chair and vice chair starting in January. So, Mr. Smith, we look forward to putting you in this hot seat here. But you would not be in that position if we did not have not only Mr. Scott leaving, but also Mr. Hines. Certainly, Mr. Hines, I want to say thank you for all that you've done for this board, the lively discussions that we have had. Your input has been valued and needed as we move forward on several projects, including Victory Village as well as others. So certainly on behalf of staff, I will say thank you for your service. And volunteer work is some of the hardest work because you're taking your time to do another job. So we appreciate it. Certainly open the floor up to you for any.
Mr. Chairman, if I can have
Absolutely.
just a few minutes here. One, I'd like to make a short, little presentation, as we usually do this time of year, from the EDA to the staff. If you don't mind distributing this to your staff members.
Thank you, will do. Thank you.
It's our customary gift. It's a small token thanking you for your work and your staff's work. Thank you for being able to answer questions when we call and giving us good information and for, always being attentive. And
Thank you.
That actually comes from a leader. And it's been honestly probably one of my better pleasures to see from the time you became director of ED, of the economic development, to see how much we've grown and how much we've moved. And that shows, tremendous leadership.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for that. Also, if I could just take a moment of
Absolutely.
personal privilege, if I may.
Absolutely.
This being my last meeting for, I guess, the better part of 5 years now, and it has been quite an honor to serve with some of Portsmouth's best and finest. And I just want to take a moment to thank this city council, naturally, working with them for the past 3 years, and to thank past city councils for my original appointment and reappointment, for the opportunity to serve alongside with you. And we have made some amazing strides, and these updates have just given us a brighter future for economic development in our city. So again, I'd like to just thank everybody for this opportunity.
Thank you.
And I wish you well, Delegate-elect.
Thank you.
And I'm expecting great things from you in Richmond. And I think with that, again, thank you for all the opportunity for being able to work alongside you guys.
And I wanted to say one point of personal privilege as well. I want to thank Councilman Simmons. A lot of folks don't know this, but she's the reason I'm here. She talked me into doing this, and one of the folks that recommended me. And so when folks say that Portsmouth can't come together just because we don't see it eye to eye on everything, we know how to put good people in place to make things happen. I want to thank the EDA. I want to thank City Manager, City Council, Mayor Rowe, and I want to thank Robin Moore. When Robert came on, he was still working for Mallory at the time when I came on here 2 years ago, and he ascended to this position. And we city council and city manager did a good job vetting him and hiring him, taking a chance on him. Because I know he's a young man, fairly young, but he got that gray now because y'all done worried him to death.
Happens to all of us.
See that? But in those 2 years, look what we've done.
Absolutely.
And, I think the Economic Development Authority in the city of Portsmouth, we are the beginning of the story about the heartbeat and the engine that's working in Portsmouth. And I don't care what anybody says, I think we've done a lot. I think when you came in, you was talking about like $44 million of activity. And now we're at $300 and some odd million worth of activity that we can track. We're not making this up. This is data driven. So we're moving in the right direction. So, it's important that we tell our story and attract people to us. Tell them our story that attracts folks. We got enough problems. Everybody else got problems, but they just don't talk about it as much. You know what I mean? So we just got to make sure that we're telling folks the things that attract folks to Portsmouth. And I think, as we continue to tell our story, we're going to continue to attract those young people and those businesses. And I'm excited about the future. Any way that I can help, I will do that. And with that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everything.
You started off in a very positive direction.
So last thing I would like to say, if
I don't find.
I'll be the man. You go ahead.
First, I wanted,
Took over the chair.
Yeah, he took over already.
Since he took over the chair already, huh?
Go ahead, get to him. Go ahead, get to him.
I just want to commend staff on that appreciation reception that they gave. That was awesome. Very well attended. I think that was a big plug for its publicity as far as the other business persons networking and talking and communicating. And they too saw the numbers and see, what you've done in a short period of time. So I want to commend you and your staff for that event. And secondly, I want to show my appreciation to Don, for his leadership, and we will certainly do what we can to carry that on in hopefully a bigger way. And you told me to take us to the next level, so that's what we got to do. And then to Mr. Hines, I was looking forward to hopefully you staying a little longer, but that didn't happen. But I appreciated also all of the dialogue that we've had, and I think you were a tremendous asset to the EDA with your knowledge and the homework that you would do that some of us often don't do or haven't had the time to do, but we could kind of depend on you to be that person. So I thank you too, and we're gonna miss you. But thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have anything to add?
I'm appreciating this Love Fest. No.
Finally, huh?
I just want
Finally.
what is the status of the additional commissioners?
They were appointed.
They were appointed. They will be at your next meeting in January. One of them was here this morning.
Yes.
We haven't done our normal sit down and discussion, and I don't know if he's been sworn in yet either, but we did have him come to the meeting to kind of get a feel for how working with this body it normally goes. So
Well, I would just like to say congratulations to Don on your election, and I look forward to hearing good things that you're doing for our area in Portsmouth. And I also want to say to Anthony that we will miss you. I have appreciated your voice of experience as a new member that you've, supplied all of us with. So, thank you.
Don't worry, the bad influence is gone.
No, I've appreciated the knowledge that you've had. So.
I ask that council doesn't leave me on the sidelines, but so long and decide to put me somewhere else to work for our citizens.
With that being said,
one more thing. I got to remind I have to. I really want to thank. We've talked about momentum. We talked about what is happening, what has been done, but these items and these things really could not be done without economic development staff. And I'm not talking about myself. I am talking about Mr. Smith, Mr. Donahue, Ms. Biedenbaugh, and Ms. Ogilvy, who will watch this on YouTube. Those four are the reason why you're doing and you are where you are. And so I thank them for their diligence and their putting up with me and making sure that we can make some things happen. Mr. Smith has been with us now almost 2 years. Mr. Donahue, almost 2 years. Ms. Biedenbaugh, almost 9 months. And Ms. Lee Ogilvy, who will be retiring December 1 of next year, has been with us now 20 years. So it's a lot of knowledge. Mr. Smith has worked on 2 of the largest projects, the largest Wawa I've ever seen, as well as the Starbucks in Churchland. Mr. Donahue has worked side by side with me on everything from the preferred freezer deal to a number of the larger deals that we've worked on. And Ms. Biedenbaugh, the refresh that you see and with the rebranding, that was all Ms. Biedenbaugh. And all of that has led to some, what I would consider phenomenal numbers. Some of you all were at the meeting, some were not. But just to put in context of what we do and where we are, where you all are, and the part that you all played, we look at annual numbers and we look at calendar years, okay? Not fiscal year, calendar year. And we really measure three things. One, new projects, so new investment that's come in. And we track that as the former chair said. Yeah, for 2 minutes. The chair stated we track that using a software called Salesforce. Then we look at the reinvestment, which is the new building permits for existing buildings, existing businesses, and even some housing. And then third and finally, we look at the value add from the sales. The last two items, we get those from the building official and from the city assessor. So to kind of put in context what you all have done in the 2 years under Chair Scott and 4 years under Commissioner Hines, 5 years, sorry, 5, I'm gonna cut you short. I just won't hear for 5 years. That's coronavirus. 2017 was 44 million. That's how much this city had done in new investment and reinvestment total, all this. 2018, $104 million. All right. 2019, as of 3 o'clock on the 4th, and we're still calculating projects here, but as of 3 o'clock on the 4th, $379 million. That's a lot of money. And $379 million in Portsmouth is not the same as $379 million in Chesapeake or Virginia Beach. It's a larger impact. And that's because of you all. That's because of the investment and the time and the projects that you all have helped us do. That does not include the casino. That does not include redeveloping the waterfront. That is just new projects. To put in perspective, staff alone has worked in the last 18 months, 115 projects. In the last 12 months, staff has worked about 80. Again, in comparison, last year staff landed 34 projects to get you $104 million. This year, staff has landed about 46 projects to get you $209 million of brand new economic development projects. We did more in projects than we did all of last year collectively. That's something to say about your staff. And I don't say my staff because we're all colleagues here. But this staff is the best staff you will have from an economic development standpoint. And I'll put this staff against any economic development office around. All right? So you all should be very proud as you end the year of what you've done. We are proud to be a part of this group, and we appreciate all that you allow us to do. Now you can hit the gavel.
Again?
I had the mic drop moment. I had the mic drop moment.
Like this is my last meeting. I'm getting it in.
Go ahead, one more time.
Yeah.
With all that great information, Robert,
Yeah.
you mentioned telling the Portsmouth story.
Yeah.
And that's something we've been talking about since I've been on this Economic Development Authority. And with the city manager's concurrence, I would think we should probably put something out there on your page that talks about our story. What has
I
happened
see a full page in the newspaper.
2017.
Who invests in Portsmouth? Who likes Portsmouth?
But I
Boom,
think
boom, boom, boom.
we should talk about our growth from 17 to 18 to 19 and tell our side of the story, because there's plenty of negative that even our own citizens
Don't
put
know
out there.
about it.
Yeah.
And our own citizens don't even know about this type of investment and what this investment means to the financial health of our city, whether now and going forward. I think we need to tell the story, whether it be newspaper, whether it be PowerPoints on our economic development staff, a launching point on our city webpage, something of that nature, because there's good things that are happening. We're just not telling that story. So
I agree,
think we
but I
need
think
to-
maybe the newspaper and television ads, whatever, because
Social
a lot of
media.
the citizens are not going to go and look on the PowerPoint on the websites and
Sure.
those things, and they're the ones that are probably putting Portsmouth down, the ones that don't bother doing the research.
Yeah, it's true.
You've got to feed it to them.
social media.
You can't make them find.
And with the
They're not
permission of
gonna
those
look for
companies,
it.
it's advertising for them as well.
So I'm gonna take this as authorization to utilize the EDA's budget to pay for.
It doesn't,
I
you
would
don't need to
actually-
do that. Economic,
Yeah.
not economic development, Mr. Pace does
it.
advertise, I think we continue to say, let's just say this, we continue to say that Portsmouth doesn't tell its story. Portsmouth tells its story. It's its citizens and those who are in the region. As you said, everybody doesn't take the paper anymore. If you see to this morning's paper is thinner than any paper I've ever seen in my life. So it says that people are not reading newspapers. We have to help to tell the story. We just did that whole big page about all of the accomplishments when we were doing the budget about education. Cost to be a center page in the pilot. And then that next week, we had some citizens saying, you all don't say nothing about what you're doing in education and what you're trying to do. But we continuously, as Portsmouth residents, say we are not telling our story, and we are. And people who, for example, an affair that I went to this weekend, there was probably 3 Portsmouth people there. Most of the people were Chesapeake, Norfolk, and Virginia Beach. They were talking more about Portsmouth and the great things Portsmouth are doing and the engagement that's going on here, and they don't even live here. So I think we're continuing to advertise our webpage, which people hardly go to. Probably you all haven't been to it in whatever. Every day is updated with new information of things that's going on in Portsmouth. These numbers that he has presented to you today, that he presented, last week or 2 weeks ago, once he revealed them to you all again in this meeting, now that story can be told. But we couldn't put that out there without you all hearing it first. But we'll continue to tell our story. We need to tell it, the great things, and help our citizens to tell the great story of what's going on in Portsmouth.
I think, and I, as somebody who just ran an election, and I ran on the future of Portsmouth, my thing was that our future is bright.
That's right.
And if you believe that, then
That's
I think
right.
the folks that believe that
Right.
supported me, they believe that too.
That's right.
I believe that the business community knows that. That's why they're investing here.
And that's why I'm
And there are a
knocking
lot of
this door
folks
down.
here who this don't know yet, and I think we don't have all of our problems are not about some of the challenges that we have. A lot of it is we have a marketing problem that we need to continue to talk about, and we need to figure out different ways to attract that young talent, that young energy who blog and talk about the energy that do that type of stuff that none of us really want to do, but there are people who love doing that stuff, that love to engage the community, and if we can get those folks to become ambassadors to help tell our story, then that's something that we ought to think about, and maybe that's something that should be on the retreat agenda in March, about how we get those positive forces, not those folks that are just trying to make a buck all the time. Those people who live here and are really invested in the city and want us to. We know that there are people who you can pay to do that, but that's not what's going to make our city get better. We got to have those people who want the city to get better because they live here, they believe in the city, they're not just trying to make a buck. And if we can get more people involved and energized to do that, then I think we're going to move in the right direction. So,
Absolutely.
And I know,
Yes, ma'am.
I know y'all trying to
you almost,
interrupt.
no, we having a good
But
conversation.
I
Now we
think-
didn't turn this thing into another
Yeah,
meeting, but we're going to go
and I think
good
that
at the same.
why you were so successful in your campaign is because it was grassroots. Sometimes we try to do the large, and I think with economic development, we got to go to the pockets of people and tell that story.
You're
Because
right.
they,
You're right.
right.
Civic league meetings, because they don't know
Right.
this stuff.
No, they don't, and they don't. Many people. You'd be surprised. No, you
They're the
won't be
most wanted
surprised.
engaged.
People are surprised when you say to the large percentage of our citizens that do not even have access to computer. The many that don't have cell phones. We think everybody has cell phones, but you're correct. Economic development in my tenure. And probably we were here a long time ago. I've never known anybody in economic development to go to a civic league meeting and talk about economic development. We've got 37 active civic leagues. That helps to tell the story when, as you say, the grassroots people know and have information, which is a good suggestion.
I went to several, but yes, thank you.
You went to 7, but I'm saying get the staff to get out there and make some reports.
But I'm wielding this thing now.
All right.
Well, Jeremy,
No.
One more thing.
Y'all have a great holiday.
Hit it hard.
Good. Everybody have Merry Christmas,
Hit it
Happy New
hard.
Year,
Hit
Happy
it hard.
Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa.
Hit it hard.